today is I'm going to give you a little sneak preview of some upcoming changes to TradersPost that are not live in production yet. So what you're seeing right here is my local development environment. And this new version of TradersPost has a lot of changes, but primarily it is improvements to support other asset classes. And the first ones that we're exposing are options and futures. So we'll just dive in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to show you how you can set up these strategies within TradersPost. We won't spend any time in TradingView. It'll just be on the TradersPost side. So to start, everything in TradersPost starts with a webhook. A webhook is a way to send a signal into TradersPost from some outside application, whether it be TrendSpider or TradingView, or even some customers program their own custom strategy in a programming language like Python or JavaScript, etc. And then they use that webhook to basically send the signal from their code into TradersPost. So we're going to go ahead and create this new webhook. And as I mentioned, this is all functionality that is not live in production yet. So when you go to create a new webhook, you won't see this similar functionality. So this asset class dropdown, that's a new field on the webhook that allows you to designate what type of asset class is that this webhook is for. So in this example, we're going to just create one for stocks. We also added a limit to TrendSpider checkbox. This behaves the same way as the limit to TradingView. It just basically already has the IP addresses of TrendSpider built in so that no other software or human or anyone can send a signal to that webhook if it didn't come from TradingView or TrendSpider. So because we're just testing right here, I'm not going to check these, and let's limit this to a couple different tickers. Now I'm going to put in a futures ticker there, and you'll see that we get an error because MNQ is a futures ticker and it is not a stocks ticker. So let's just undo that, and then we'll save. And one change or enhancement that we made in this version of TradersPost is the ability to copy. It's not quite what you would expect, where it just copies it directly into the clipboard. But basically, when you click the copy button, it pops it up in here, and you can just press Control-C, and now that webhook URL is in your clipboard. All right, so now once that webhook is created, the next thing you're going to want to do is to create a strategy. So let's go ahead and create this strategy. We'll just call it the stock strategy. We'll associate it to our stocks webhook. And we're just going to leave all of these settings blank right here, these additional details. If it were a strategy that were based off of a TradingView script URL, you could input the URL to the script, the author, the URL to the author's profile on TradingView, and what the recommended account size is for that strategy. And we're going to set some defaults. These defaults are the values that get copied over from the strategy to the strategy subscription when we create a new subscription for that strategy. So we're going to make it to where the default is both sides, and let's default the tickers to, we'll actually just leave these blank. We'll let the user decide which tickers they want to check. And we want the asset class for this strategy to be stocks. And we're going to leave all these settings blank. We'll do entry market and exit market. And we'll do 10% of our portfolio value as the position size for each signal. All right, so let's go ahead and click save. And so now that we have that strategy created, the next thing that you can do is create a subscription to that strategy. And the subscription to the strategy basically connects the strategy to a broker. So you can basically create one strategy, and you can connect that strategy to multiple different brokers via multiple subscriptions. So let's just go ahead and create a subscription, and let's connect it to the TradersPost paper broker. So now we have this subscription that is not enabled yet. And you'll see that it defaulted the values of the subscription to the settings that we configured in the strategy. So it has sides equals both. We can check, let's just check square to start. And we have the asset class configured to be stocks, and 10% of the portfolio value was configured as it was the default in our strategy, and entry market and exit market. So now let's click save. Now, another new feature in this version of TradersPost is the ability to switch back and forth between a bullish and a bearish example. So because we have sides both chosen, when we get a buy signal, it's going to result in buying 78 shares of Square. And when we get a sell signal, it's going to result in selling the position that was opened by the entry order. So if we click bearish example, that basically just shows us what it would look like if we were to get a bearish sell signal, and it's going to short Square instead of buying. And then now the exit order is a buy to cover order. And if you click the order row, it expands the details. You'll see that the total cost of those 78 shares is just shy of the $10,000, because this paper account right here is a $100,000 paper account, and we configured the strategy subscription to be 10% per position. So we'll go back in and edit the subscription. Let's just double check our settings one last time. Let's go ahead and enable all of these tickers. And now let's just enable that strategy. And let's see. So now, as soon as a signal, the subscription is enabled now. I just noticed that we don't have manual submit, sorry, we don't have auto submit enabled. So when the signal comes in, you'll get a notification for that new trade, but it won't automatically submit it to the broker unless you explicitly approve that trade. So what we're going to do is we're going to manually trigger a signal to that webhook. So if you just go to strategies, webhooks, and then click view on your webhook, you'll see this send request button. And this send request button basically allows you to trigger a signal manually for that webhook. So let's just go ahead and trigger a buy signal for Square, and let's see what happens. So now you see that this count in this red circle up here incremented to 1 because we have one new trade that we need to review. So you'll see that we have this entry order to buy 78 shares, $10,000 worth of Square. Let's just click in to view this trade, and let's review all the different information that's available on a trade. By default, the way TradersPost works, when you get a signal, is it plans the trade, and it needs to see, are there open orders that need to be canceled? Is there an open position that needs to be exited? And do we want to open a new position? So in this scenario, there are no open orders to cancel. There's no existing Square position open to exit. And because of our configuration in the strategy subscription, it needs to open a new position. And this right here is the signal that triggered this trade. So if you click view log, that will take you back to the page for the webhook request that we just triggered. So we can see when the signal came in, what ticker it was for, and the raw payload of data. So if this signal were coming from TradingView, you would be able to see that the IP, this was the IP address of TradingView, and you'd be able to see the JSON request that TradingView sent to TradersPost. And then this right here, subscription trades, these are basically all of the trades that were triggered as a result of that signal. So for example, say we had multiple paper accounts connected to this strategy, you could see the list of trades. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. So we'll click view trade to get back to that screen. And you'll see that this trade has not been approved yet. Irina, you asked, how do we get to this page? When you're viewing the trade, you can click view log. And that takes you back to the signal page that basically shows you the information about the signal. You can also get to this page by going to strategies, webhooks, and clicking view. And then there's this logs button at the top. And this is basically the raw list of all of the logs of all the requests that have came to that webhook. And if you click that row, it shows us that webhook request page. And then this list down here is all the trades that were triggered from that webhook request. So let's go ahead and approve this trade now so you can see what it looks like. It asks you, are you sure you want to approve this trade, and submit it to your broker. So when I click confirm, this is actually going to send the order to my paper broker. And now keep in mind, this is a paper broker. It's a local TradersPost paper broker. It doesn't actually respect market hours. And you notice that the market is closed right now. And this is just useful for being able to test even when the market is closed, just to make sure that your webhooks and your strategies and your subscriptions and everything are all configured correctly. So when you click confirm, you see that the trade is approved. And now the bullish position on Square has been opened. The order was submitted and it was filled. If we go back to the dashboard of that paper broker, you'll see now that we have this closed order and we have a long Square position open. So now let's send another request to that webhook, except this time let's send an exit. So now we go back to our notifications. Now we have one new notification for this Square ticker for that strategy, for the stock strategy in our TradersPost paper broker. And you'll notice that this one looks different because now we're getting an exit signal and there is an open long Square position. So it's going to create a market sell order to exit that position. If you click the debug button at the bottom, this basically just shows you the trade plan and the low level information of what the trade plan calculated. So the trade plan sees that there's an open position and we need to exit that open position. So it calculates this exit order to basically market exit the open position. And you'll notice this debug button is across the application everywhere now. Previously, we would show this information expanded, but now it's hidden behind this debug button to give us a little bit more real estate on the page. So let's go ahead and click approve for this trade. Now you'll see that that exit order was filled. And if we go back over to our paper broker here, you'll see that that open position is exited and we lost 78 cents on that trade. Because even though the market is closed, after hours trading is still open. So the price of Square went down 1 penny since we entered that position. So what I'm going to do now though, is I'm going to actually connect a second TradersPost paper account. So you can see what it looks like if we connect a strategy to multiple different brokerage accounts. So if you just hover over brokers and then click connected brokers, you'll see a connect broker at the top right. Once you click that, it'll show you the list of available brokers that we support. If you don't see your broker, definitely shoot us an email and let us know which broker you use so that we can potentially add it to our roadmap. So I'm just going to go ahead and click TradersPost here, and that will basically, now we have 2 TradersPost paper accounts, and I'm just going to rename this one to TradersPost 1. So now we have TradersPost 1 and TradersPost 2. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to rename this one to Stocks 1. And I'm going to create a second subscription to that stocks strategy that we created earlier in the webinar. So if you just navigate to strategies and then click subscribe, and now we can choose which paper broker we want to connect, or which broker in general we want to connect that strategy to. We already have the strategy connected to TradersPost 1, so we are going to choose TradersPost 2 this time. All right, so we have a new subscription created. We're going to auto submit, and we want to choose both sides, and we're going to enable all of these tickers. It's associated to TradersPost 2. We're going to buy, we want the asset class to be stocks, and let's do 5% of our portfolio value on this one instead of 10. So let's click save. And now you'll see that we're getting a much smaller position calculated for this one. So let's go ahead and enable this strategy subscription now. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the first strategy subscription that we created, and I'm going to turn on auto submit on that one as well. And let's just rename this one to stocks 2 so that we have just a consistent naming convention. All right, so now we have 2 paper brokers and we have 2 subscriptions to that one strategy. So let's go back over to our webhook and let's send a sell signal. Now, because there's no open position on either of those paper brokers and we have both sides enabled, what this is going to do is it's going to open up a short position on both of those paper brokers. So when we hover over to our notifications, now we have 2 trades that were already submitted to the broker because we turned on auto submit. Previously, auto submit was not enabled. So you'll notice a difference here on these notifications. The trade was approved by myself, but manually approved by myself. But if you go to one of the notifications for the trade that we just triggered, you can see that trade was auto approved. All right, so now we have 2 short positions on each of these paper brokers. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to send a buy signal. And because we have both sides enabled, it is going to buy to cover the short position and then go long with a normal market buy order. So we're just going to go back over to the webhook now. We're going to send another request and we're going to send a buy signal. And you'll see now we got 2 new trade notifications for that strategy, each in our separate subscriptions in the separate paper account. And in each one, you see that it exited the short position with a buy to cover and then went long with a market buy. And you can see the trade plan here. Like I mentioned before, it shows the open position, the exit order that was calculated, and then the entry order that was calculated. You can see the raw logs of the API calls to the broker by clicking these rows right here. So this one right here, the very first one was the, this would be the buy to cover. So basically this is just the low level debug data. So you can see the actual data that we're sending to your broker via the API. And then this one is just the regular market buy. So you can see the request that we sent to the broker and you can see the response that the broker gave us. So if there were ever any failures or the broker responded with an error code, you could see that information here. And it would also show it on this page as well. So you could see why an order was rejected or why an order failed to be created. And this status changes list basically just shows you the time series of events from when the trade was created, when it was approved, processing, exiting, entering, and then finally when it's completed. So that's it for stocks. Let's set up another strategy now. Let's do one for options. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to use these existing paper accounts, but let's create a new webhook and let's call this options, and let's choose options as the asset class, and let's only allow Square as the ticker for that webhook. So now that webhook is created, again, you can click the URL to view it, or you can click that copy button and then you have it easily available to just Control-C to copy that URL. And now that webhook is created, let's create a new strategy with that webhook called options. And let's associate that strategy with the options webhook. And let's do the default of both sides. You'll notice too, actually, I didn't mention this before. Previously, the sides drop down had the values of both, long, and short. Now the values say both, bullish, and bearish. And the reason for that is it makes long and short doesn't make sense in the context of options. And you'll see that here in a moment when we actually start triggering some options trades. So for the option strategy, we want it to buy options instead of stocks. And let's configure some defaults. We want it to use the both option. So that means that when we're bullish, it will buy calls. And when we're bearish, it will buy puts. And let's do out of the money. And let's find options contracts that are 3 months out. And let's do, we want to return 12 strikes, 6 strikes on each side of at the money or whatever the market price is. And then let's select the second strike away from at the money. And let's just hard code. We just want to buy one contract. And let's just do entry market and exit market. All right, so now this strategy is created, and now we need to connect that strategy to a broker by creating a strategy subscription. So let's connect this option strategy to the TradersPost 1 paper broker. And let's see, so it didn't find a options contract, probably because, let's tweak these settings. Hold on a second. I have to, I remember now. So by default, TradersPost paper accounts won't support options. In order to get a paper broker to support options, what you have to do is click edit on the paper broker, and you can associate that paper broker with another broker account. See you later. See you later, Michael. Thanks for joining. And what this does is it basically allows this paper broker to use the market data from another broker connection. So because I've connected TradeStation, and because TradeStation supports stocks, options, and futures, when I select that broker as my market data source, now you'll see down here that this broker connection now supports stocks, options, and futures. If I were to get rid of this and save it again, you'll notice that this changes so that it doesn't support options. So we're going to keep this associated to my paper broker. And now when I go back to edit that strategy subscription for options, now it's able to scan. Now it basically has that market data for the option chain. So it's able to scan the option chain to find a contract that meets the criteria that we defined right here. So you'll notice 3 months out, 12 strike count, and 2 strikes away. And the contract that it chose, let's pull up a separate screen. 1 second. And let's go look at the option chain data for Square. So it's May 20th. Let's go find May 20th. Yes, definitely. I'm recording this and I'll post it on YouTube and I'll put it in Discord. So it's a May 20th, $135 strike call, which is this one. So if you remember the settings that we chose, is that we chose 12 strikes and 2 away from at the money. And we wanted the out of the money. which is this strike right here. And the current price of that contract is $12.60. Let's see. Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and let's see what a bearish example looks like for this strategy subscription. You'll notice here now that it's buying a put, and to exit that put, it's selling to close. Yes, it's definitely possible to auto submit. You don't have to, but you can click auto submit just like any strategy subscription. All right, so let's go ahead and turn on auto submit. We have to choose a ticker. We'll choose Square. And let's just double check all the settings one last time. Everything looks good. All right, let's enable this strategy subscription now. All right, so let's send a signal to this webhook so it'll trigger a trade. And actually, let me turn off auto submit. I'm going to keep that off for right now. We'll turn it on in a second. So we'll go to the options webhook and click send request. And we're going to send a buy signal. So this is going to buy to open a call, and it's going to dynamically scan the option chain and filter out all of the contracts that don't meet our criteria. And then it'll select that contract and then submit an order to the broker for that contract. So let's go ahead and submit that. And let's look at this trade now. It's buying to open the May 20th, 2022, $135 strike call, and it's buying just one. Now, say this hasn't been submitted to the broker yet, so you actually do have an opportunity to edit this trade. So you can click edit at the top right, and this basically just gives you the ability to customize the settings just for this trade. And when a trade is created, it copies the settings from the strategy subscription. And this is basically just giving us the ability to customize it. So say I actually wanted to buy a quantity of 2. So now you can see we're buying 2. Or say I wanted to do a leap instead of the 3 months out. So I can change the expiration to filter out anything that's less than 12 months out in expiration. So when I click save, you're going to see here that it's actually going to find a different contract. So now it's selecting the 6/16/2023 $135 strike contract. All right, so we're done here now, and everything looks good. It's buying 2 of the adjusted contract, and let's click approve. And that order is filled now. And if we go to our TradersPost paper broker, you'll see now that we have an open position on that contract that was dynamically selected. Something that's new in this version of TradersPost is you can click the view order button or click the order ID, and this will take you to a screen to just view that one single order. And again, you can click the debug button at the bottom to see the raw data of the underlying order. So now let's send a sell signal to the options webhook. And what this is going to do is it's going to sell to close the long call, and it's going to buy to open long puts. So if we click back to our notifications, now we have this new trade. Let's just click view to get into the trade screen. Now you see we have that open long call. So it's going, the exit order is going to be a sell to close, and then the entry order is a buy to open. Now, this can kind of be a little bit confusing because the signal is a sell, but the entry order is buying puts. Now, the action of buy or sell, really the buy just means this is a bullish signal, and the sell action means this is a bearish signal. And The reason for this is TradingView's action that it sends is always buy or sell. So we want to adhere to those conventions and just follow the way TradingView works. And you can configure TradersPost to buy puts when you get a sell signal instead of selling short calls when you get a sell signal. Some people may still want to do that, and you can configure TradersPost to work that way. But most people, I imagine, will want to buy calls when they're bullish and buy puts when they're bearish. And there are some strategies that might make sense to short options, but those are different types of strategies that we won't really cover today. So if you go ahead and click approve on this trade now, it's gonna submit those orders to the broker. And you'll see now that those orders were filled and we exited the calls, and now we're in the long puts. So let's go look at our TradersPost paper broker. You'll see the order history where we entered the long calls, we exited the long calls, and now we entered long puts. So I'm going to take a little side step here and show you some other features that are new in TradersPost that will be, hopefully we're going to have all these features deployed this weekend. So next week they'll be available. So on every ticker page, you now have this view quote button. And this basically just allows you to view the quote for a symbol. So right now we're viewing the quote for this options contract. And similar to the other screens, you have a debug button that shows you the raw data of the quote. In this case, this is coming from TradeStation because we chose that connected TradeStation account as our market data source. This is where it's actually getting that quote from. So this is the data that came from TradeStation. And then this is the data translated into the TradersPost standardized data model for quotes. So yeah, we do have a chart. If you go back on this page right here, we have the embedded TradingView chart. We don't have our own charting system or our own live data right now. So we depend on TradingView, and we depend on customers connecting their own broker where they pay for live market data. If you're using a live connected broker account like Robinhood, TD Ameritrade, TradeStation, Alpaca, then you're going to have live data by default. And then you can basically use those connected brokers to connect that broker as the market data source for your paper accounts. So TD Ameritrade doesn't have paper trading, but you could connect a TD Ameritrade account to TradersPost and then use that TD Ameritrade connection as your market data source for a TradersPost paper account. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that actually. So I'm going to connect a, let's connect a TD Ameritrade. So now we have this TD Ameritrade account connected. And if I go back to my paper broker and I edit, let's edit TradersPost 2, I can associate that paper account with my TD Ameritrade account. So now that paper account is utilizing the TD Ameritrade connection as its market data. So if I go back to the TradersPost 2 account and let's look up a ticker and let's view the quote for Square, you'll see now that the data source for that quote on that paper account is TD Ameritrade. And if we click debug, you'll see the raw data. This is the data that came from TD Ameritrade, and this is the data for that quote translated into the portable TradersPost quote model. And now this paper account also has option support, and this option chain data is the options data that came from TD Ameritrade. All right, so let's do a futures example now. So let's go back to webhooks and let's create a new webhook called futures. And let's put in to support NQ. And now that webhook is created, you can copy the URL nice and easily, create a new strategy. We'll call it futures, and let's associate it with the futures webhook. And we're going to take both sides, both bullish and bearish. And we're going to configure the asset class for this strategy to be futures. And let's just buy one contract. And let's enter market and exit market. All right, so that strategy is created now. So let's create a subscription to that strategy. And let's do it in the, I can't remember which broker, let's see. Yeah, let's connect it to the TradersPost 1. All right, so now we have this new subscription created, and you'll see now that the example order on the top right is a NQ order, and it automatically submits it for the current contract. So let's choose NQ. We want to auto submit, and all the defaults from the strategy were populated in the subscription. Let's save that. And let's enable it. Just to show this actually real quick, it's the same as the stocks example. The bullish example is to enter long, and the exit is the exit long, and bearish is enter short and buy to cover. All right, let's enable it. All right, so now we have that strategy subscription enabled, and let's send a webhook request to the futures webhook. And let's do a buy. And we go to our notifications here, and you'll see that we had a trade auto submitted and auto approved to go to our paper broker. And you can see now that we have this open position here. Now let's actually, let's create a second subscription to that future strategy, except let's connect it to the TradeStation paper account. So we'll choose TradeStation here. And let's auto submit. We'll choose NQ. All the defaults are populated because of the settings that we inputted into the strategy. Click save. Bearish example, bullish example, everything looks good. Let's enable it. So now what we're going to do is send a webhook request to the futures webhook, and let's do a sell. So now we're going to get 2 trade notifications because we have 2 strategies or 2 subscriptions to that one strategy. So you'll see now the paper broker had an open long position, so it exited that position and then entered short. If we look at the TradeStation one, there was no long position open, so there was no exit order, and it only entered short. So let's go look at each account now. You can see that we're short in this account, and we're also short in TradeStation now with this account. So now let's go back to the webhook again, and let's send another request. And let's just do an exit this time, which means that it's going to exit the short position, but it won't enter long. So you'll see now that that position is exited in both accounts, both in the TradersPost paper account and the TradeStation paper account. So if we go to the dashboard of those accounts, you'll see that there's no longer an open position and no longer an open position in the TradeStation account. So the last few things that I'll show you, other things that we've added, is when you're in the logs view for a webhook, you can now search by ticker. So this isn't a great example because there aren't multiple tickers in here. But if there were, you could search for those tickers. So you could find the specific signals that you're looking for, and you can limit it to a date range. And then you can also search for failed or success. So if we click that webhook, you'll see now that we had 2 trades triggered as a result of that webhook. One of them was in the TradeStation account, and one of them was in the TradersPost account. So similar to being able to search the webhook logs, you can actually search all of the trades that were triggered too. So if you go to the strategies and then subscriptions page, these are basically all of the strategy subscriptions that we have enabled. And if you click this trades button, that's basically a list of all of the trades that were triggered as a result of the signals and the strategy subscriptions that you have created. So you can search here just like anywhere else, and it would limit it to only those tickers. Let's see, what else is new in this version? Let's connect another broker. Let's connect our Alpaca account. So you'll see now that we have a live Alpaca account and a paper Alpaca account. And we have a bunch of open positions here. You can view an individual position. So you can see this is the source data that came from Alpaca, and this is that data mapped to the standardized position model within TradersPost. And viewing the quote, same thing. You can see that the quote data came from Alpaca. If you click debug, you can see this is the raw data that came from Alpaca, and this is the same data mapped to the TradersPost quote model. So TradersPost has the ability to manually trade as well, in addition to triggering orders from automated trading strategies. So I can actually exit this put, this long put, and sell to close. And you get this confirmation screen. So we click sell to close, and now that long put will be closed. And if we go to the TradeStation account, even though this is a completely separate broker, it's not Alpaca, it's not Robinhood, but the user interface within TradersPost is consistent. So I can search for NQ here. You can see all the future contracts. We'll just do the current contract. And I can actually just open up a position manually. So let's buy 10 contracts of this. Let's go even further. Let's see what happens. This will probably trigger a buying power error. Yep. So let's just go back down to 10 contracts. And now we have an open position. It's kind of insane the leverage that futures gives you. For $165,000, I'm actually controlling $3 million worth of futures contracts. Futures can be very powerful, but they can also be very dangerous. It's very easy to quickly lose a lot of money if you're not careful. Awesome. Thank you, Arena. Thank you. The last thing I want to show you, I'm going to close this position here, and I'm going to go back to subscriptions, and I'm going to disable this paper subscription, and I'm going to edit the TradeStation futures subscription. And what I'm going to do is crank this up to be 500% of the portfolio value, which is basically going to submit an order that I don't have enough buying power for. I'm going to need to let's see, let's increase this. Let's just do a quantity. All right. I think that's a sufficiently big enough number, $1.5 million. And let's trigger, just go to the TradeStation account to make sure that I don't have any open positions. Nope, I don't. And let's trigger a signal, a buy signal. And what I'm doing is I just want to show you what a failure scenario looks like. When a trade is submitted automatically to the broker and it fails, you'll see the error that came back from the broker right here. It shows in multiple places. If you were to click the API call that we sent to TradeStation, you can see that we sent this request to buy at market a futures order with this symbol for a quantity of 100,000. And you'll see that it failed because the maximum number of contracts that you can buy, which I just learned this, there's a limit across the system for options and futures where you could only buy 2,000 contracts. And you can see on the logs, another way you can get to the logs is go to connected brokers, and there's a logs button next to the connected broker. And this is basically just the raw log of all the API requests that TradersPost has made to your broker connection. So this last log right here was the one that we just submitted that failed. And you see the failure reason, and it also shows you on the log which trade triggered that log. So it was this trade from the futures strategy subscription, and you can click view trade to get back to that screen that we were looking at previously. And go back to the webhook request page, and you can see the trade that was triggered with the status of failed. And that is pretty much it. I think that'll be pretty much it for today. Does anyone have any other questions? Just throw them in the chat if you have any. If not, we will upload the YouTube video or upload the Zoom recording to YouTube, and we'll post it in Discord. And the plan is to hopefully get all of this released to production this weekend, barring any unforeseen issues or new bugs that we discover. If you have any other feedback or anything you want to let us know, you can shoot it to us at support@traderspost.io or shoot us a message in Discord. Awesome. I appreciate the time, everyone. Have a great day.